I think we're live. Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing?
Good. There's a lot of, again, unhappy Oiler fans. I think I've said
Oh,
that every day for
every time.
weeks now. But I have to say, I'm not one of them. I think the main thing to do on free agency day, if you're an Edmonton Oilers GM, is to avoid making a big splash because I charted the Oilers in recent years. I kind of had it in the back of my mind that it's not been a good idea for the Oilers to sign UFA free agents, and so I dug into it a little bit. Didn't take long. You just have to go to Cap Friendly. And Bruce, the Oilers' record in free agency has been absolutely abysmal. They haven't gotten a player in July on a big contract that's worked out completely in the complete decade of darkness. I think it's fair to say. So, so I'll just quickly go down the list. Tobias Reeder, Kyle Brodziak, Jussi Jokinen, Milan Lucic, Mark Letestu, Andre Sekera, Benoit Pouliot, Mark Fane, Nikita Nikitin, Andre Ference, Boyd Gordon, Jason LaBarbera, Eric Belanger, Curtis Foster, Nikolai Habibulin, and Sheldon Surrey. So I was not.
I got Mark Letestu as covering the bet.
I got him as a maybe. They bought him out. Didn't they buy out the last year? Did they not?
Oh,
Or they traded it.
Traded him at the deadline.
They were able to trade him. I think that I also have that contract is working out. And of course, they signed Chris Russell as a UFA in October. And that worked out. That 1-year deal definitely worked out. So there's about 20 players there, and 1 or 2 of them have worked out. That's a horrible ratio. Now in the NHL as a whole, Bruce, it's a little better. It's about 1/3 of the big signings on July 1st UFA day or early July workout, about 1/3 of them. So of all these big money signings that all these teams are excited about today, from based on history, not just a handful, just a small portion of them, about 1/3 are going to work out. So the team that's excited about Anders Lee and Matt Zuccarello and Brandon Tanev and Bobrovsky and Duchesne and Tyler Myers and Gustav Nyquist. Down the road, only about 1/3 of those teams are going to be thinking, yeah, that was a good idea. Most of those teams are going to be thinking, oh man, we are sunk with this dead weight contract and we've got to get it off our books. So
happens a lot, doesn't it?
Pardon me?
Happens a lot.
Happens a lot. So let's go down the list of the moves the Oilers did make. And first of all, they signed Smith, and he's got a bonus-laden contract, Smith and net. And they didn't sign Cam Talbot. And it was interesting, Bruce. Cam Talbot signed for more than Smith did, $2.75 million on his basic contract, Smith at $2 million. And the only other thing I'd add about Smith is that after February 1st last year, I think you have the same stat. After February 1st, he had, a .912 save percentage in Calgary.
Right.
And he was the starting goalie in the playoffs. So it looks like when he got healthy, Smith, he's been a pretty good goalie for a long time. And in the second part of last year, he was again a pretty good NHL goalie for the Calgary Flames. So what do you think of the signing?
Well, he's going to be an interesting player to watch. Like, he's a highly competitive, volatile guy. He's a big man. He's a very, very aggressive puck handler who will get himself into trouble occasionally and also will make a big play occasionally. Kind of changes the equation a little bit for the other team shooting the puck in. I said in my post about him that he may be the most aggressive puck handler the Oilers had since Don Smokey McLeod tended the twine for the Oil in my first year as a season ticket holder, 1977-78. He was an insane puck handler, McLeod. I think he had 10 assists that year, and he only played 30-odd games.
You know who was a pretty damn good puck handler, Bruce? Grant Fuhr.
Grant Fuhr, yeah. I gave him an honorable mention.
Fantastic. I mean, and you don't really remember Grant Fuhr because you don't remember the mistakes carrying the puck because there weren't many, because he was so damn good at it. I mean, I don't think I don't remember seeing a better, like in terms of efficiency of passing, because a lot of these goalies get bad marks because they have the big rep as a puck mover.
Mhm.
But when you look at their success rate in passing, it's actually pretty abysmal. So you know, a lot of people say, well, you'd rather not have that guy,
Yeah.
but Grant Fuhr was pretty good. The
Oh
goalie that
yeah,
I
sure.
was thinking of is Gary Smith, in terms
Hmm.
of the big sideburns era of goalies
Uh-huh.
comparing Mike
Oh, I
Smith.
remember him stick handling all the way to center ice one time. That was pretty famous. He got tired of Toronto Maple Leafs defense being unable to clear the puck, so he just caught one and he just dropped it and he stick handled right up the middle and went all the way to center, which is as far as the goalie's allowed to go. It was a very exciting moment
So
in
there's
about
a couple goalies still
1968.
out there on the market, Bruce.
Yeah, well, the Oil won't be going after any more goalies. They needed a number two, and they got one.
Do you think it? What do you
Quite
think of it in the end? What's your
Question
take?
is he a 1A, 1B, a 2? I don't mind. I love that it's a 1 year deal. I'd hate anything more than that for that guy, 37 years old. I like that it's got bonuses written into it, that he has to earn a big chunk of it. He doesn't just get paid for, wearing a ball cap. He gets paid more as he plays. I don't mind there's a playoff bonus. I don't mind paying playoff bonuses because that means you're in the playoffs. Uh, Overall, I'm a little indifferent, but I think they could have done a lot worse. They could have, got tied up for more dollars with another goalie, and they've already done that with Mikko Koskinen. So they're going to go with a two-man veteran rotation, and it is what it is. I think, I don't know, would you rather brought Cam Talbot back? Calgary, basically they traded. Calgary wound up with Talbot 1 year,
Oh
2.75
no, Cam
million.
Talbot. We had seen enough of Cam Talbot. I mean, that was 2 years in a row, Bruce, where he had
Mhm.
just. I mean, if he, there's a little bit of history with these players too, and at a certain point, like it's not good for the player to come back. Like if Cam Talbot came back, even if he was ready and good to go, maybe he's a better bet than Smith. I don't know. Like it's hard to say, but if he came back and he had a couple of games where he let in a goal earlier in the game, I mean, what would
Uh-huh.
be just would have the torrent of abuse and unhappiness and catcalling at the games would have been kind of overwhelming for the player. I just don't think it's a good, if a city's poisoned for you, and on a certain level, I think Edmonton was for Talbot. He needed to go elsewhere and get a fresh
Yeah.
start. And I think there's something to be
Yeah,
said for that.
they're going to be poisoned for Mike Smith. Some people are because he's not a well liked guy. I'm guessing he'll start to become well liked when he starts doing his shtick wearing the oil drop as opposed to for some other team.
Exactly.
But he might have a short leash.
Granlund, Marcus Granlund, Bruce, yay or nay? What do you think of that signing?
I don't mind it. Again, 1 year, 1.3 million. He was not qualified by Vancouver, so he was actually a restricted free agent that didn't get qualified. But even at 1 year, he will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of it because of his age. Uh, he's got some history of scoring, and he has quite a bit of history as a penalty killer, which is something Edmonton desperately needs. And the last 2 years, he was in at about almost 2.5 minutes per game on the penalty kill in each of the last 2 years, which is a lot for a forward. So clearly they relied heavily on him. Now, how good of a penalty killer he is, I can't tell you. All I can just say for now is that he now slots into that spot on the depth chart, which has been a gaping hole on this club.
So his even strength scoring is abysmal. I mean, out of 450 NHL forwards in the last 2 years, in terms of even strength scoring, I think he's like a 415th or something like that out of 450. So, like it's just not there. He's not a strong attacking player. So he's got to be a strong checking player. But this is the kind of player that Dave Tippett seems to have made a lot out of it at his various stops in the NHL, kind of getting players like this and turning them into third line checkers. And the thing I like about it, Bruce, so
Mm-hmm.
Ken Holland at his press conference talked about one of his goals coming in as GM was to get more speed in the bottom half of that Oilers roster. And it was just driving us crazy
Right.
last year, right? How
Yeah.
slow they were.
Yes.
And it can't be that slow again. And the good thing about it is he's not only talked about doing it, he's done it. He's brought in Speedy. Bruce is going to deal with his dog or cat here. He's brought in Speedy Joachim Nygaard. He's brought in Thomas Yurko. I'm just saying, Bruce, he brought in Nygaard, Thomas Yurko,
Mm-hmm.
Gaetan Haas. And
Yeah.
Yurko and Haas are announced today, and these are really cheap deals. They're around
Mm-hmm.
the NHL minimum.
Yeah.
Who knows if either of those guys will pay out? But he has, I think, successfully brought in 3 fast players who are going to compete for jobs in that bottom group of forwards. So he's gone and done it. So I give him credit for that, even though there's the worry with Granlund that he's not going to be a double-digit scorer, that he's going to be a less than 5 goals a year scorer.
Well, he scored.
He might reader it, Bruce. That's what I'm worried about.
He scored 12 last year, David. He had 10 at even strength, 10 goals and 8 assists. So you talk about his crappy even strength numbers, and you're right. But they were much crappier in 2017-18, enough to drag down the 2-year average. 12 and 10 is not great numbers, but when you're talking about bottom 6, it kicks butt on anybody on the Oilers.
If he gets 12 goals, I'll take it. That's for sure. I'm just worried.
How would have ranked him, 5th or 6th on the Oilers behind 6th. So if he's in the bottom 6 and scoring at that rate and killing penalties and skating with speed. Interesting thing about Granlund before we move on. If there's another player that's ever done this before, I don't know who it is. His first 3 NHL teams: Calgary, Vancouver, and Edmonton.
Here's another interesting factoid. He's from Oulu, Finland, and that's where Jesse Puljujarvi trains in the summer. So maybe they found a friend or somebody who needs a friend.
That would be awesome, like would that ever be a nice little sort of side benefit if it was something that they could use as we always talk about sweeteners. Well, there's different forms of them. Maybe, who knows? Anyway, you make an interesting observation.
And just quickly on the Puljujarvi front, Holland said that he's had players in Detroit who said they weren't coming back, and they came back, and he's had players who said they weren't coming back, and he's traded them. So, and he says we still don't know what's going to happen there. My bet is, Bruce, at this point, I don't know. It's hard to make a bet because it really comes down to the individual, right? The individual person, and who knows what's in his head. But my guess is he's going to be back this year.
My guess is that Ken Holland knows that he has the hammer and he's prepared to use it. I don't see him just knuckling under to a trade request, and everything he said suggests that nice guy reputation notwithstanding, that he can play hardball.
Yeah, I guess the Oilers do need a top line forward and a 3 center, and that's Holland also made that clear. So
he's got a lot of 4Cs on the list, and I don't see too many that really line up as 3C.
Yeah, maybe if you can get either of those.
We had one, and then I had to go and trade him for Ryan Spooner, but
not like Ryan Strome was. It's not like Ryan Strome was tearing up. Whereas he was not tearing up the pea patch. He had 0 goals.
He had 0 goals. And about a week before he got traded, I wrote a post saying, well, for a guy with zero goals, he's actually playing pretty darn well. And he wound up with 19, right? So
I think the legend of Ryan Strome is way hardcore.
I think he's the closest thing to a 3C we've had around here for a lot of years, and they gave him away cheap. Anyway, they got to replace that. They got to replace that position. And they're still looking for a scoring winger, of which the Spectre was rumoring Patrick Maroon as Oilers being on his short list. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You know what, Bruce? I wish the Oilers would. I don't see Holland doing this or the Oilers organization doing it, but the offer sheet to Sebastian Aho, I would hope. There are all kinds of fantastic players out there on the wing and at center that the Oilers could offer sheet. You could offer sheet, in the $3 to $4 million range, and that's only a 2nd round pick. I don't know why the Oilers don't do that. I think they should do it, and they should do it tomorrow, so they can then, if it doesn't work out, then they can offer sheet another guy. But I don't think that's the route Ken Holland's going to take. He's in the NHL old guard, and
offer sheets. You have to be prepared to fight in barns if you're going to make offer sheets, right? That's the old guard's opinion on offer sheets. But
it's weird that it doesn't happen more often. Honestly, like it's a tool, and I don't know why they don't use it. It's just the weirdest thing to me that they don't.
My theory is that it gets used, but it never gets consummated. They do the negotiations, but it looks so bad on the player. If he signs an offer sheet somewhere else and his team goes out and brings him back. Well, he's got a deal now with a fan base that's going, you ingrate, you traitor, you're more committed to yourself and your wallet than you are to this team. And there's just a lot of crap feedback that they've seen happen with other players who've had matched offer sheets. That if I'm the agent, I'm protecting the player and I'm testing out what's out there, but I'm doing it in a soft way where you go back to the team and say, well, you can offer an eighth year that no one else can, and you have first rights on the player. If you're reasonably close, we'll stay here. I have very strong feelings that's what happened in the Draisaitl negotiations, for example, but we'll never know because there was never a hard offer sheet. Today's for Aho was the first one in 6 years. If it gets accepted, it'll be the first one in 12 years, with the last one being Dustin Penner, for goodness sake.
So Alex Chason signed for 2 years at $2.15 million. I was hoping to see something with a 1 at the front of that, but I was expecting like 1.8, 1.9, and that was probably very optimistic on my part. And given the free agent contracts handed out today to players who scored in their 20 goals, this is by far the cheapest contract of any player who scored 20 goals this year. And what happened to Chason is what happened to Patrick Maroon a year ago, who couldn't find much money as a free agent and couldn't fetch much in a trade for the Oilers because he was teams just said, well, his numbers are totally jacked up playing with McDavid and Draisaitl on the power play and at an even strength as well. Now, Chason, of course, wasn't an even strength scorer to speak of, but he certainly did get a few power play goals. Anyway, I think that's a pretty good number. And best of all, Bruce, what a great term for Chason, just 2 years compared to the 4 years that we're going to players like Richard Panik, Brett Connolly, Jonas Donskoy. I like that a lot.
Or the 6 years that went to Brandon Tanev, a
Ouch.
14-goal scorer with Winnipeg, a career 24-goal scorer with Winnipeg, who signed a 6-year, $21 million contract. That was a player that was of great interest to me. I would have liked the Oilers to get him, but not at that contract. No way, no how.
So what's your worst contract of the day that was handed out, Bruce?
Oh, I had one a minute ago. Hang on. Give me a second. What's your worst?
Oh, I'm going to go with Bobrovsky. I mean, I think he's a good goalie, but 7 years. What is he, 30, 31? 7 years at $10 million. Wow. Good luck with that. A lot of these players, Bruce, will have, after they sign, they'll have one kind of peak year and then maybe one near peak year. And that's as good as it gets. And when you go as long as 7 years on that, 4 years is going to be bad enough for like when Connolly or Nyquist or Panik or one of these guys, Donskoy, starts to fade away. But and I don't actually mind the Connolly because he's only 27, I think, and some of these guys are a bit younger. But Bobrovsky's already in his 30s, and I just thought, Zuccarello's not that great either. Like, I know he's a great guy and everything, but he's 32, 33?
Yeah.
6 year,
5
year deal at $6 million.
Wow.
The Wild got wild.
Yeah, that's a bit extreme for sure. I'm going to go with the Anton Stralman. To me, severe overpay, $5.5 million for 3 years, so not forever. But the guy's going to be 33 when the season starts, and he's coming off an injury reduced season in Tampa Bay, and he's a very good sort of support defenseman, but I don't ever see him as a number one D man. So to get him, and apparently Tampa was willing to go 2 years, so Florida threw in the third year, and that's what got him to switch teams.
If you hear a chopping sound, Bruce, that's not me cutting up an Oilers player. That's my wife.
Oh,
She's
okay.
salad in the background. So
making dinner. Okay, well, that's always good.
Life goes on, man.
Yeah, it sure does.
We home podcasters, it's just this is what the gig is.
Yeah, I had the cat come to the door, and when by the time I let the door open the door, we moved on from Michael or Marcus Granlund to Thomas Yurko. I think I might have missed something along the way, but
I think I repeated Gustav Nyquist or someone's name about 5 times there. So because I was
yeah.
stretching it out by
Sorry
just
about that.
repeating the same name.
Last I saw my cat, she was sound asleep in the bedroom, but she knows when I'm podcasting.
She wants to be a star.
Uh-huh.
A star of YouTube. Okay.
Anyway, six moves altogether. Did we talk about Gaetan Haas yet? That's
I think we
basically
have
official.
covered it. Yeah, I think
that's basically official now, and
yeah.
And I'm expecting he'll get the same though as the Swede they signed earlier. He just had to wait. Haas had to wait till July 1st for the out clause of his contract to kick in, and Swiss League, where he was actually signed through 2021, so he cleared out of there and more depth. And they kind of have this layered depth now, where they got these Euros that they brought over. 3 of them, they're 25 to 27-year-old experienced Euros, getting their first shot over here, and you add those to the experienced, middle experienced tweeners that the Holland signed in the Oilers, Gambardella and Malone, Patrick Russell, that they've actually got a little bit of insulation at the depth layer.
So Bruce, let's just quickly go over we'll finish up with what the Oilers are going to do, and let's go over just a few quotes from Holland at the press conference. And I thought the interesting thing, the most interesting thing, and I like a lot of fans were again upset, but I was not upset. I think if you get through July 1st unscathed with the terrible signing that's going to haunt you for years to come, that you've done a good job. So Holland said, I've been a manager for 22 years. I know when it's time to pay and when it's time not to pay. Now, in saying that, he did suggest that the Oilers would have cap space in the future, and that they might make some noise, as he put it, in the future when they have cap space. I actually don't know when that day's coming. I don't see it coming ever. As long as McDavid and Draisaitl are here, they're not going to have cap space because there's always going to be young players to sign. But I did like that attitude, and they didn't go for that Donskoy Connolly contract that I think they would have regretted, and so I liked what he had to say there. Any thoughts?
I think everything they signed today was for 1 year or 2 years max, eh?
Yeah.
Puljujarvi also signed a 2-year extension with the club today.
Yeah,
right. He was a restricted free agent, so they had full negotiating rights. But that's a done deal now. But everything was he and Chiasson were 2, and the outsiders I think were all 1-year deals, weren't they? Smith and Granlund and Haas and Yurko.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a lot of activity. Holy cow, they signed 6 players today.
So he also said this. He said, there's still 2 months to go this summer, and I don't think we're done. And his quote is, certainly we'd like to add another player who has the potential to score 20 goals. We'll see if we can make that happen. And he also mentioned that he was going to try to sign a third-line center. So that's 2 more players that they're looking for. And he had made that kind of clear beforehand that that's what he was looking for. Do you think they can get one or both of those players, Bruce? And if so, how?
Well, in my perfect world, Jesse Puljujarvi moves in with his best friend and roommate, Marcus Granlund, and lines up on the same line with him and pumps home 20 goals on a club-friendly contract. But that seems actually like a pretty remote possibility. Patrick Maroon is out there. There are guys that are out there, but they don't really have the cap space for them. They haven't got much roster space. With all the flurry of activity today, all of a sudden they're up to 47 signed players on the 50-man list. And they're never going to take it all the way to 50. No one ever does. They like to have at least one free space for, eventualities, shall we call it. So they've only got a couple more spots to sign players.
I wonder if they could still trade Chris Russell for an equivalent kind of forward. That might be one. They could trade Puljujarvi for the third line center type. So that's another option. there's still, I don't think there's free agents out there, Ryan Zingle and Marcus Johansson. I don't think they have the money for that. So I think we can write that off. Maybe Maroon, maybe Derek Brassard. If they decided they were going to go, he's kind of a Derek Roy kind of player who but I don't know how good Brassard is.
He's never done it for me. And this last year, he had a really bad year. He played for 3 different teams and basically failed the test with all of them. And if they were to touch him, it would have to be sort of with the 10-foot pole, 1-year deal, cheap. And I'm not sure that he's going to go that way unless he goes into late July and into August and nobody's shown any interest, which is not impossible. He's kind of one of those guys that's, may have already fallen off the cliff.
The trade I'd like to see, Bruce. So the top of the list would be Chris Russell for an equivalent kind of player, like a second line, third line winger, kind of at the same cap amount. I'd like to see. That's the first thing. That would be the deal I'd most likely like to see. There's the other deals that I really envied watching other teams pull off were kind of the Andrei Burakovsky or Jimmy Vesey or Eric Hall trade where a pretty good player was traded for draft picks. And I don't know if those kind of trades are still available. I suspect maybe 1 or 2 still might be available, especially if there's going to be more. I'd love to see more RFA offer sheets this year, because that could put a lot of teams into the position where they have to make some trades that they don't want to make. So it's good that they have that little bit of cap space. And that's so outside of the Russell for equivalent forward, I'd like to see that kind of really good young veteran player at about $3 or $4 million come in for like a second and a third draft pick, that kind of thing, like we saw, or even less than that in some cases. I believe Jimmy Vesey got just a 3rd round pick for the Rangers from Buffalo. They cleared cap space to get Panarin. So that's what I want to see. And that's the kind of deal that Holland to get, like, I think he's getting a passing grade at least. He's getting a passing grade. But to get a really good grade, he's got to make that kind of trade.
Yeah, and of course tomorrow's July 2nd, after which the Milan Lucic bonus that's getting paid today comes off out of the bank account of Oilers Entertainment Group, and so he becomes a slightly more desirable target for other teams as of tomorrow. So if that trade is ever in the works, now tomorrow on is the time, but I don't see it. But
Stauffer said that he was saying that Lucic bonus will be paid sometime in the next 3 weeks, which I thought was interesting, because he's also been hinting Lucic could be traded sometime in the next 3 weeks. So
I thought it was July 1st.
Well, he indicated that it wasn't July 1st, that it was some other date that the bonus was going to be paid, and it's sometime in the next 3 weeks. So we'll see if Lucic. I'm kind of putting that out of my head right now. I would like to see that, and it's actually high. Like, this is the moment, right? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I think, I don't hold out much hope for that, Bruce. I'll believe it when I see it, even though I do think Lucic has some real value to another team and more value to another team than he does to the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, Montreal will need him to protect Sebastian Aho now, right?
They're going to be desperate when they don't get Aho. The great thing is when Carolina matches, then Montreal is going to, I think, hopefully they'll make an offer sheet on another player like Marner, or I could see that happening in a second. Or I don't think it'll be Braden Point. I think he won't go that route.
The story on the TV was that all the teams with that are vulnerable to offer sheets, Toronto with Marner, Winnipeg with Lina and Connor, Calgary with Kachuk, they'd all be phoning Carolina and saying, when you should match, but you should wait the entire week, so Montreal can't do anything else until the end of the week. And of course,
that won't help them, though.
Carolina has no incentive to do that to help any of those other teams unless they're throwing draft picks at them or something. However, Carolina might do it just to screw Montreal, because Montreal screwed them with this offer sheet and with the brutal terms that caused them to pay over $20 million within the first 12 calendar months before, if they match, they have to keep them for 12 months. and the terms of the deal have 2 huge bonuses payable within the 12 months. Like that, I can't believe the CBA allows the owners to screw one another like that. Like that's just brutal. It's not quite what Ed Snyder did.
You mean if they match, they can't trade him?
They can't trade him for 12 months.
I just thought they couldn't. Oh, okay. In any case, I don't think it matters to those other teams, Bruce, because to Marner, or he can just wait till mid-July to sign an offer sheet. It doesn't matter it's a week. It doesn't matter to him. He's not going to sign anytime soon. These things are going to stretch on, like Draisaitl stretched on, and like Nylander stretched on. So you could have offer sheets. You could line them up. You could have 3 or 4 in a row, five in a row, and that'd be fun. I'd love to see it. Because it's not the Oilers on the firing line, I'd love to see that. Like, hey, make it Matt could like make Tkachuk next. He should be next, and then Marner.
Mm-hmm.
I only wish they had pushed Carolina to 10.3 million, just under the four first-round draft picks.
That might have done Carolina a favor in the end in terms of the amount of the contract.
I agree. That's a reasonable deal.
Lower, the terms of when he gets paid is not that reasonable, but the overall amount for the value of the player is probably not that far off.
Yeah. Well, let's leave it there, Bruce. We got I got to help out around the house here, and there's fireworks to watch tonight.
You got to eat that salad, eh?
I do. Yeah.
All right. I got to write a post just updating the Oilers roster with the 6 new additions and the much lower cap space and so on that's now available. We'll have that up a little bit later on, but it's been a busy day without anything too obviously long-term costly to the Oilers. None of these deals like those you described earlier, or the first 2 trolley years when they paid the biggest contracts in the entire NHL to get first Sekera and then Lucic. Nothing like that. Everything's just small, safe, maybe too safe, but safe bets.
Oh, one last thing, Bruce. I'm glad the Oilers, because there was heavy talk of the Oilers getting Wayne Simmons from the Flyers. Mm-hmm. He's got a 1-year, $5 million deal. You know what? Over the last 2 years, his even strength scoring of 1.4 points per 60 is exactly the same as Jujhar Khaira. Mm-hmm. So there you have it.
He's plummeted, and many of the power forwards have. And they said on TSN this morning, they talked about the 2016 free agent day when Lucic got signed, when Kyle Okposo got signed, Andrew Ladd got signed, Louis Eriksson got signed, Troy Brouwer. It was all these mostly power forwards entering their 30s, and they were all disasters. All the contracts they listed were disasters.
Yeah.
And so 1 year for Wayne Simmons, even $5 million is a lot, but 1 year makes a hell of a lot more sense than going deep on a player of that description.
All right. Thanks for talking, Bruce.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Happy Canada Day.
And in the meantime and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.